Kevin Madden is a Republican strategist and served as a senior aide for Mitt Romney's presidential campaigns. He joins me right now. Good morning to you, Kevin. Is DeSantis, is he playing us a little bit? Not officially announcing he's running, but being very presidential and then taking the gloves off against former President Trump? I mean, he's kind of trying to keep the control here.
Well, look, you don't. Nobody goes to Iowa by mistake. He's definitely running for president. I think, as we heard in the lead-in, there are reasons why you can't officially declare because it starts the clock on everything from disclosures to how much money you can spend and where you can spend that money. I remember when I was working for Governor Romney's two campaigns, we were very careful to qualify everything as if the president or if the governor decides to run for those reasons. But as you can see, he very much looks like a traditional candidate, and he had traditional candidate events and did that traditional glad handing across Iowa. That's so crucial to how those voters decide and pick and choose whether or not they're going to support somebody. That retail politics where these Iowa caucus goers get to see candidates up close, get to ask them questions, and get to see how they perform on the stump. So I think there's a lot of pageantry that goes on with this announcement, and he really wants to get the best bang for his buck when he does announce. But yeah, I think we're going to see a Trump-DeSantis primary for sure.
Well, I want to talk about Mr. Trump and his events and comments, but even if DeSantis were to finally announce, would America simply be potentially getting 4 more years of Trump light or MAGA energy in different packaging?
Well, you know, that's up for Governor DeSantis. I think every candidate that runs for the presidency has to distinguish themselves and set themselves apart and actually make a case for their vision for the country. So I think on all the questions that a lot of voters have about national security, the economy, those are issues where Governor DeSantis is not going to win with a Trump light argument as much as he's going to be able to make a case for his vision, his values, where he wants to take the country. So that's always the big test for anybody that runs for president. But we have a lot of time before we ever really come to the conclusion on whether or not Governor DeSantis would meet that test of voters.
It doesn't seem like Governor DeSantis cares much about what his critics say. He appears to be skeptical of polling data and not buy into these numbers that show that he's really declining. But could all of the negative press be starting to affect voters' perception of him?
Every candidate doesn't worry about polling data unless their polling data is good for them, right? Then they're touting it. I think Governor DeSantis is he has a very strong resume of experience as an executive in Florida. A lot of people are going to be attracted to that. But really, if you look at the electorate right now in the country, the one thing that people don't really want is a rematch between Trump and Biden. So he has a very big opening right now if he decides to take it, to make a case for the direction he wants to take the country in. So that's what I think what we're going to see over the next couple of weeks. You're going to see a bit of an agenda come together. You're going to see a strategy come together where he starts to distinguish himself and what he would do differently than what we're seeing leaders in Washington doing right now. And those will be some of the big things to watch for over the next few months.
Did Trump make a smart move in canceling his event? Was it strategic? I mean, from your perspective, some people could say he walked away, from an opportunity there sparring with this young guy who has all this bravado. Others might say, you know what, he's strong enough that he doesn't have to have an event in Iowa right now. What do you think?
Well, it's hard to tell, but I think the most important thing is how DeSantis handled it. One of the things that we've seen from others in this race right now, Adrienne, is that a lot of them are shying away from taking Trump on. And Trump has to this point, really set the tone and tenor for the campaign. And DeSantis, I think, moved into the space that Trump used to occupy, and he sort of dominated the airwaves, not only in Iowa, but across the country. That's what you're going to have to do if you're going to take on somebody who is, for all intents and purposes, the sort of leader of the Republican Party right now in Donald Trump. And if you're going to take on someone who is as aggressive and relentless against his opponents as Donald Trump is. So DeSantis showed a little bit this weekend that he's not afraid to take the president. He's not afraid to take the former president on, and that he has the capability to be just as aggressive as Donald Trump when he wants to, when it comes to controlling the media narrative and really demonstrating a broader presence across the primary electorate.
Kevin Madden, thanks so much for being with us.
Great to be with you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.